Has this ever happened to you? Hi, I'm Tech Bob with eTech, and welcome to eTech Facebook Live Fridays. Today, this is what we're talking about: water damage or liquid damage. There's a couple key points we're going to cover today. The first one is, as a user, what to do if this happens. The second is, as a repair shop, how to handle the repair and talk to the customer. And the third one is to show some examples of liquid damage. So first and foremost, when this happens, what should the user do? Number one thing is turn the phone off if it's not already off. What causes the majority of board failure or just phone systematic failure is liquid is between components and it causes a short. So it'll basically make the phone turn off. Oops, I got some water in my hands. But basically, if you turn the phone off, you prevent that short from even being capable. A secondary option, unfortunately in today's phones, batteries aren't very removable anymore, so you can't take the battery out, but that would be a second recommendation, is take the battery out if you can, or unplug the battery. Because again, if for some reason something bridges in there with the liquid, it could power the phone back on, and the only way to know for sure that that's not 100% possible is disconnecting the battery. So that's two. The next one, which is a very big one, is do not charge the phone. Because if you got lucky enough, the battery shorted out and is dead, so now the board can't short out. As soon as you plug a charger into that phone, you're now introducing live power into it, and that's, I would say, probably one of the bigger killers of a phone with liquid damage is when you plug the charger into it. So again, if you remember, turn it off, don't charge it, and then the last one is take it to a repair shop. Honestly, you could recommend just drying it out. Everyone's seen the whole put it in a bag of rice thing. The issue with that is whatever liquid is inside the phone, if it was just tap water like this, you're probably not in as bad of a shape as if you had dropped it in like salt water or another liquid that has a lot of minerals in it, like salt and sugar. What happens if you dry out the phone without cleaning it, all those deposits dry onto the board. Salt, sugar, other minerals will eat away at the board. So not only did you have liquid in there, now you have corrosion, which is just as bad as a short happening. So you want to take it to a repair shop. If in absolute worst case, say you did just drop it like in a river and you got it real quick, or a tub or something like that, and you don't have a repair shop near you, or it's late hours, dry it out, I would say, for at least 24 hours. Maybe put it in the sun, just somewhere where it has indirect heat that's heating it up. You don't want to go extreme, like put it into like a heating bag or a heating pad or something like that. I would take that to a repair shop and they can do something like for you. And I'll get to what to do on the repair shop side in a second. But again, if you follow those things, as a user, you're going to have the best likelihood of at least being able to access your data, which is usually the preferred thing, or getting the phone fully functional. Now, a lot of the times you won't have a customer know these things right off the bat. So as a repair shop, jumping in the repair shop side, that would be my biggest recommendation to customers that have either come to you for liquid damage repair or you weren't able to fix a phone. It's kind of too late, but it's one of those situations where you're trying to help them out for future scenarios. So if it does happen, their likelihood of being able to save the phone is a lot higher. So again, if you follow those, you're in a good shape. Now, second thing on the repair shop side. So how do you deal with liquid damage or water damage as a repair shop? The number one thing is you want to set the correct expectation with the customer. So it's impossible to guarantee that you can get the data off of a device that's been liquid damaged. And the reason for that is, as I just went over, there's so many variables that can affect that success rate. So if you tell someone 100%, that's kind of giving them false hope, and then in turn you may end up with an unhappy customer because you didn't deliver on what you said you would, right? So with liquid damage, it's sometimes a flip of a coin depending on what they did. If they did all those things I mentioned incorrectly, or not to the preferred option, so they didn't turn it off, they kept using it, they knew water was in it, and they plugged it into a charger and just waited until the phone randomly turned off, that's not a great sign. But if they followed the instructions that you gave them, you're most likely going to be able to salvage that. So as a shop, the first thing you do is you open the device. So I'm going to switch over to my other camera. That'll be the larger view, and then I should still be in frame here. There we go. So first thing to do is obviously you want to open the device. And as I mentioned, setting the right expectation with the customer, you let them know that it's not guaranteed and there is no warranty on the repair. That should be a big one mentioned as well. And the reason for that, the phone could work 100% after you fix it. The problem is there may be microscopic damage or liquid still there that can cause an issue. So you never want to say it's going to fall under your standard warranty because you can't guarantee that. So when you open the phone, the first thing you want to look for is obviously signs of liquid. So this one, it was in there for a couple seconds. I see some near my charging port and near the top end. Liquid is typically going to go into what we call water ingress points, or they're openings in the phone where water can easily seep through. That's usually going to be your earpiece speaker mesh, your speaker openings on the bottom, and your charging port. This is an iPhone 6 Plus. It's older and definitely did not have liquid resistance or water resistance than newer phones do. So it's not as likely you're going to get water flooding in right away on a, say, iPhone 12 or a 13 or even a 14, but it is still possible. The number one thing that makes that more possible is this right here. A crack in the screen. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but a crack in the screen or a crack in the back glass, any type of damage to the structure of the device definitely increases the likelihood of liquid getting in there. So once liquid gets in there, there's a couple things you want to do. One, you want to disassemble the phone completely, because even though you can see just liquid on the top, so you think, oh, I got that, there could be liquid on the underside or even in between the layers of the board. So you don't want to guess. A clear sign that liquid is in the phone, like I mentioned, water being in there. The other thing is we have these liquid contact indicators, or LCIs. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit to show that. We have one right here. And then on this phone, I believe we have, it's just one on this one, but they vary on the devices. Some will have them in the SIM tray, which this one may have one over here underneath that. But you're basically looking to see if those have been activated. Now this is a non-activated LCI. If I flip over to this iPhone 11, you can see, where's the other one? So we have one activated LCI down here by the Taptic engine, and we have the second one activated back here on the back of the screen. So when they're red like that, that means liquid came in contact with the LCI and it was enough to trip it. Sometimes humidity, extreme humidity or moisture can do that too. So if you have a customer that tends to, like, say, take a shower with their phone in the shower stall or the bathtub or anything like that, even if it doesn't come in direct contact with liquid, it can still activate it. So that's a caution thing to be aware of as well. So after you're inside the phone, disconnecting the battery is number one priority after you've kind of checked things out. So you want to make sure that there's no current going to it. The next thing you want to do is pull out the board, and you want to clean everything with isopropyl alcohol and a brush. Isopropyl alcohol is non-conductive, and it's going to get out any of those residues like salt, sugar, and other minerals like that. So you want to clean it with a brush. This one is probably a better example since there is slight liquid damage to it, but enough to cause this phone to not be fixable. So our standard process for liquid damage, what we recommend, take the phone completely apart. The board is the number one thing that you want to get cleaned and clear of any type of corrosion or liquid damage, because that's the one part that's not replaceable here. You can replace a screen, a battery, a camera, anything like that, at least to get the data off of it. If the board goes, that's it. There's nothing that's going to work, either for data or phone use. So you're going to take the board out, clean it, make sure there's nothing there, check all the other components. It's very important to check connectors. So in this case, you want to make sure, so I'm going to unplug my battery first. I'm going to unplug my screen cable. So my screen connectors right here, I want to make sure that there's no corrosion there, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So you can see there, the screen connectors look good, and you also want to look on the board side to make sure there's also no corrosion. Now, if you see corrosion on the connectors on the screen and the board is fine, you obviously don't want to plug this screen back into the phone because it has liquid damage present. So you're trying to clear that to avoid any type of issue. So that's the first thing. Take the board out, check the parts. The next thing is, if you've cleaned the board completely, an additional step, which is pretty important, is to run it through an ultrasonic cleanser if you have one. I have an example of one here today, so you can see it on the big camera, and I'll try to get it in focus underneath this camera right here. This is a small one by Baku. Basically what this does, this may be familiar if you've ever cleaned jewelry or been to a jeweler and seen them clean jewelry. What this does is it vibrates at two different frequencies, 35 watt or 50 watt, and it basically shakes the liquid that's in there to help loosen any type of corrosion, oxidation, rust, anything that's on the board that shouldn't be there. Now, the liquid that goes in here, you have three options. You can use alcohol, so we'd recommend isopropyl alcohol. You can use ultrasonic cleanser liquid. There's actually, I think Brand Sonic is one of the big brands for that. Or you can use distilled water, because distilled water is also non-conductive and there's no minerals in it that would damage the board. But basically, you take your board. So this board we have removed from an iPhone, I believe 7 Plus. So we're going to take the board, lay it in there, and it just has to be fully submerged. And not only does this vibrate, but because it vibrates, it also generates a slight amount of heat. And just like when you're doing dishes, heat helps those stuck on things like grease and grime release. Same thing happens here. That heat will help, along with the vibration, for those minerals to release from the board and truly clean it. So I'm gonna just start this briefly so you can see what this thing does, but I'm gonna turn it on. This timer right here, it's set to 180 seconds by default. It varies on time. I would say run it for at least a minute. You don't have to go the full 180, but so I'm gonna hit 50, hit the on button again. It's at 50 watts it is vibrating at, and that's what it's doing right there. I'm gonna try to zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on. If you can tell, all those little micro bubbles are forming from that vibration. And while that's going on, let me make sure I didn't miss any chats. Chris Carey asked a great question. Does it matter what percentage? It does. 90% or higher is preferred, because if you have anything lower than that, there's other chemicals mixed in which aren't the best for the board. So definitely 90% or higher. That's a good call out there, Chris. Let me see if there's anything else. Nope, nothing else so far. So you can see a little bit. It's not really steam coming off of it. It's kind of like a mist from it vibrating. You guys see it in that bottom corner. But again, this right here is really only recommended if you're seeing a lot of liquid damage issues. I've, in my repair lifetime, probably fixed maybe a couple dozen liquid damage devices. And when I say fix, I've attempted the repair. My success rate has probably been 50%. And again, lots of variables there. But in most of those cases, when I couldn't fix them, it was something like salt water. And salt water, if you're near a coast or say where there's a lot of water activity stuff, I highly recommend having one of these, because this will probably help salvage the majority of your saltwater damaged phones, because it'll get that salt loosened from the board and prevent that later corrosion from happening. And once this is done, you basically just pick the board out. You do want to have it air dry, even though the isopropyl alcohol isn't conductive, or the other materials aren't. You don't want to put, it's safe liquid, but you don't want to put a wet board back into a frame. So let it air dry. As far as time frame for liquid damage, that's another expectation thing for the customer. I would set that at least 24 hours, because if you try to rush a liquid damage repair, I would say your success rate goes down at least 20%, because either it wasn't fully cleaned, it wasn't fully aired out or dried, and you didn't give the phone the fighting chance it needed to really have a successful chance at turning back on. So I would say 24 hours. Pricing, I would say, is another big one. It varies. I would say whatever your labor type charge is, stick to that. Obviously, I wouldn't charge it for 24 hours because you're not actually doing that for 24 hours. Oh, I think we might have technical difficulties. 1 second. Is it the camera? Yeah, it's blacked out on the Facebook side. Mic's still good. I think I'm still picking up audio. Yeah, we're still live. 1 second, guys, while we figure out the camera issue. Unmuting me? Oh. Alright guys, looks like we're back. Cool. Yeah, something went weird was going on with the camera. We'll have to check that later. But as I was saying, pricing-wise, you don't want to charge someone for 24 hours because you didn't sit there with the phone for 24 hours. I'd recommend most liquid damage recoveries start in the probably $60 to $100 range, and then you can kind of gauge it from there depending on your area. I will say the number one goal with any liquid damage repair should be data recovery. Because as I mentioned, you never want to warranty the repair because it could go out at any second. And the concern of the customer, because you can replace a phone. I know it's a cost, but you can't replace the data. And you might run into a case, or you've probably already run into a case where a customer says, I have pictures of a loved one that's no longer around, or a newborn pictures that weren't backed up, things like that. And speaking of backup, that's another big recommendation in liquid damage cases. If a customer was not regularly backing up their device, maybe an education thing is in store, or something that's warranted there, let them know. It's quick with iCloud or Google Drive, and you can do a computer backup too if they don't want to do the cloud thing. But that's another big one, because at least that way you have a backup of it. So if you can't fix the board, you're not out on all those things. Another common case that we've seen is there's some type of court case going on and evidence is on that phone and it was dropped in water or it's not powering on. So depending on your area, that might be more likely than not, but it's important to be able to do this process correctly. We will most likely do a future stream that kind of dives deeper into how to repair it on the board level side. But today I just wanted to go over the basics of what to tell the customer, what to recommend to improve their success rate with their phone working, and then what to do on the repair shop side as far as what to tell the customer, how to handle the repair, and increase your likelihood of being able to successfully do it as well. And on the board level side, basically what we'll do is show everything under a microscope. So the corrosion, rust, oxidation, all of those things, exactly what's going on there, and how you can fix it. So that's all we had for today's stream. I hope this information was beneficial. And to kind of finish it off, I will say ourselves, we had a strict no liquid damage repair policy for the longest time, and it was mainly to protect the business, which everyone has to have that in mind to make sure that, one, you don't have these expenses that you can't cover, and two, that you don't have customers that are unhappy with your service. So you just set that. But we've noticed over the years, liquid damage is definitely a common repair issue or common damage issue, and it is needed. So if you're currently not accepting liquid damage, I highly recommend that you readdress that. But again, if you have a solid process in place, good warranty terms, good expectation with the customer, you won't be disappointed, and I doubt you'll run into any customer expectation issues, especially if everything's documented and well communicated to the customer. Final closing thing, Gadget Repair Expo is next week. I don't know how we got to October already, but we're here. We are going to be at booth 113 and 97. 113 for sure. We actually just got booth 97 added on, so booth 113 is here, booth 97 is just above it, so we have a two booth kind of set up. Come by, check us out. We're going to have lots of tools, parts, lasers, all kinds of stuff for like hands-on demonstration. We have a workshop that we're doing on back glass replacement with the laser. We're going to answer any questions you may have, even surrounding the iPhone 14 series that just came out. We haven't been repairing them just yet, but just our thoughts on the future of back glass and everything there. We also are going to be on a panel for the training discussion. I believe that's the second day. For all the agenda, go to GadgetRepairExpo.com. If you haven't purchased your ticket yet, there's still time. If you go and check out and use code WORKS50, so that's WERX50, you'll get half off your ticket, and that's the cheapest you'll be able to get into the show for. I believe the ticket prices, I heard, we're going to be going up the day of the show, so definitely don't wait last minute. And we look forward to seeing anyone there that comes to San Antonio to check out the Gadget Repair Expo. Again, you don't want to miss it. Thanks everyone for watching today's stream, and we'll see everyone next Friday's stream. Which actually, are we out yet?